Hi, I'm Michael Smith for Nevada Trails. Today I have a very special show. I have my sustainability guru, Garry Bowen, on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael. That's such a big topic and such a narrow one where we are that it's good to share.
Well, last time we talked, we were talking about this simplicity, about the basics of sustainability, and now basically what's new in sustainability?
Well, for the audience who has not seen some of the several fun things that we've done, I'll just do the single two-sentence. Sustainability is about human impact and its behavior. And to the degree that we don't change the behavior, we're not going to change the impact. So you see a lot of things in culture now that are geared, whether it's food or whether it's cars or whether it's, you see lots and lots of levels of this culture that are going in that direction without credit for sustainability. Mm-hmm. So your question, what's new, focus towards the Lake Tahoe area. What's new is just focusing on directions that the TRPA is now coming out with a regional plan update, and everybody's been waiting for that. And they, in turn, are tied into things called the Prosperity Center and the Prosperity Plan. And they also have their own sustainability collaborative with the idea that they want to be part of California's sustainable communities strategy, if you will. That's been through the legislature. So Lake Tahoe needs to reinvent itself, and it's much, much easier to do sustainable or green directions at a lower level, because obviously if it needs a lot of change, that's the best part to do it, because if it's doing any better, they don't really want to change. So it's easier to do it from the low end than it is the high end.
Well, I had a funny situation the other night. I shot Paula Crenshaw. She's a doctor from in nutrition.
She does Barton. Some pretty interesting subject matters.
And
yeah,
she was saying, you were telling me a long time ago about the quality of vegetables and fruit by the time they get up here. It's gone through so many miles and time that she said she's starting to give up and she's just buying frozen. That's the first time I ever heard anyone say that. And then also, this was at a group of women, and it was kind of nutrition and fitness was the subject. So that was new. And then she was saying about, as far as sustainability, that go to your farmer's market. It still traveled less than if you got it through your stores.
Well, I knew we were going to have an interesting conversation, but when you mentioned Paula Crenshaw and her comment,
yes,
things that I've discovered since the last time we talked about food, for example, the vehicle miles traveled, the issue is the average pound of food in the United States travels 1,500 miles. So it's likely to lose a lot of its nutritional value. On the other side of that, there's also in vehicle miles traveled the fact that, for example, packaging takes 10 times more energy than the product that's in it. So when you start measuring other things, then fresh food becomes even more valuable because we need to take those kinds of things into consideration. So the fact for Paula, the issue for me personally is that every time you get a fresh vegetable, and the closer it is from the farm to the kitchen to the plate, the better it is for you, the better it is for your family. And it's costing supermarkets a lot of money now for fruit because of the oil and the problems in society. That's why there's a movement towards growing our own everywhere.
Well, plus another thing that she does is when she gets like a cantaloupe or a strawberry or an apple, you're always supposed to rinse stuff. Mm-hmm. But she rinses hers in soapy water because there's so many people sick that are exposing themselves to the fruit. So many hands have touched the fruit that as a doctor, she's making sure it's clean.
Well,
and I hadn't heard of that extreme before. I mean, I'd never heard of that. Even washes her eggs. And the group was kind of shocked, but it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because if you cut a cantaloupe in half, you're bringing the germs right into your
an apple would be a good example. Apple, especially ones that are shipped in versus the ones you and I were talking about from Apple Hill, for example. The ones that are shipped in the cartons sometimes have a wax coating on them. And that's to preserve the hardness or the crispness, if you will, a crunch of a bite of an apple. But that should be rinsed off too. But soap is probably a good idea in the sense that plain water may not be strong enough on the pH scale to break through whatever they've sprayed on it. for example. So soap and water is probably a good idea in that sense, although some people still would consider that extreme, but it's probably not.
Well, it might not be extreme for our future because we're seeing so many things being pulled off the shelves because they're cutting, I think they're cutting, as somebody who's worked in the food business for years, they're obviously cutting their expenses by maybe not cutting products as well. Because I know when we have giant storerooms full of bananas to help them ripen closer before we get them to the supermarket, that if they're not cleaning properly, you're going to touch the skin and you're going to be touching that banana. So there's a lot of things you've got to do to protect yourself.
Well, I still remember from my culinary days the reason why chefs show up at 3 o'clock in the morning at their local farmer's market to pick things for today's menu or tomorrow's menu. For example, you put apples and bananas together because apples actually exude ethylene gas, which actually cures. What's the word I want? Not cures, but anyway, it makes the banana quicker to eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And towards the spotted part, and the spotted part are actually better to buy because you usually buy those cheaper. Number one. Number two, that's when you make banana bread. It's when they're softer.
Well, that sounds good because a long time ago you told me about the growing gardens locally in Tahoe. Mm-hmm. And Justin and I had the pleasure of being at the River School in Reno. Have you been there before?
Well, I actually made some serious presentations to Tom Still at the River School regarding gardens. And with all due respect to Tahoe, Reno has 20 community gardens since that time. Tahoe barely has one in terms of the one next to the college, demonstration garden, but there's not much going on there either. So that hasn't moved very quickly in the Tahoe Basin, even though they're further away to take advantage to fresh fruit not coming from so far away.
Well,
but they're not there yet.
He was so self-contained. There was a Dr. Miller that did a tour of his property of saying things how you could survive on. Mm-hmm. I think he even had a tool for measuring the sugar.
Oh, yeah.
He said to get one of those for your own health's sake. And I thought, this is all smart stuff. And then maybe it's time to start checking out more of our own gardens in our communities.
Well, your original question of what's new, at the time we're doing this program, I think I should say that we are now 2 days after the election. And the other major direction that I've been taking is in environmental education.
Excellent.
And within this particular case, because there is, in fact, a White House task force on environmental education, which did not exist ever before, but they had their first summit at the White House back in May. So we wanted to look at what would happen depending on the election, and now that it's what it is, we see some movement. We'll probably be seeing some movement in the direction of including the next generations in food issues, most importantly, but also in environmental education, because I've been working a long time with the idea that unless we share with the youngest generations out there now, think in the area of 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, about in that range, more information about the world around us, they will need much, much more information than you and I got in school. And in this culture, some of that stuff is way marginalized. For the 3 R's, they'd rather go in that direction to make a consumer out of somebody, get a job, buy stuff, whatever. But we're going to need to know a lot about the world around us to make the decisions that we didn't really know how to make very well, because Sandy is a really good example. Somebody was an EPA person I was talking with this morning before this show. Mm-hmm. Actually described Sandy as an appropriate wake-up call, and we included another element of the term perfect storm, because the perfect storm in this case was the fact that it came just before the election, and neither presidential candidate mentioned much about where we are from a sustainable level, and we're going to need to do that a lot. And it shouldn't be a big surprise that we need to go a lot based on what we considered Sandy to be the perfect storm, add the element of timing that it happened just before the election.
Well, how do you think the presidential elections will affect Tahoe?
Well, the issue for me personally is the work that I've been doing at the with the No Child Left Inside Coalition and the North American Association of Environmental Educators. There's a number of states. Yesterday's teleconference had callers on it from as far as Alaska in one point of the country to Florida, Georgia, Colorado. I don't want to see Tahoe, in answer to your question, I don't want to see Tahoe lose out any more on the fact that every state in the union now is beginning to focus in the directions of what's called nature deficit disorder, which represents what I described as the environmental education direction. Tahoe is a perfect place to be sharing that with their visiting families, visiting people from other countries, visiting school administrators, student, teacher, administrators, and I think Tahoe is a perfect place for that.
Well, I always thought Tahoe should have more museums on science. This is just the right location for it. There's so many scientists here doing work on the behalf of their particular group that we could have more museums just by being involved with their projects.
Well, and just to give credit where credit's due,
yeah.
The Environmental Magnet School in Myers is a start. But in my opinion, it could be a lot more comprehensive. I've been working with a nature center on an island in the state of Washington that has, for example, a LEED goal. That's a high standard in green building as part of their curriculum, but they do K through 12.
Okay. Well, we're down to our minute before break. Did you have any contact information you want to give out so people can track you down?
Yeah, easy enough. My email address is Tahoe Future, all one word, no underline, no space, but tahoefuture@gmail.com. My cell number is 775, that's in northern Nevada, 775-690-6900, and I'd be happy to share with or answer questions that people might have about what we just talked about.
Sounds good. We'll be back in a few minutes with Garry Bowen of Sustainability. Thank you very much. Hi, we're back with Garry Bowen, and we've been talking about sustainability, and we've been talking a lot of it just off the camera because it's such an interesting topic. And what do you think this region is going to go through now that the election's over?
Well, and if I can make a quick comment about what you just said about interesting off camera, the fact for me is at my age right now, and my birthday's in a couple of weeks, as we talked about.
Happy birthday to me.
It's rejuvenating, okay? So you don't have to give up the future simply because you're getting a little older. For me personally, it's been rejuvenating to learn all the things that we have been paying attention to for decades and what sustainability is about. So if we repeat the question again, and we'll deal with it.
What is this region's future with this post-election?
Well, post-election, in the immediate future, because like I mentioned earlier, at the time we're recording this coming, like in this case, 3 days from now, we're actually making a presentation as part of the Sustainability Collaborative that's been created in the Tahoe Basin. And that would be related to the project that we did, I initiated 6 years ago with the local AIA, American Institute of Architects, for those who don't know what that is, with the National American Institute of Architects in Washington, D.C. It was called a Sustainable Design Assessment Team. And we actually looked at 7 counties of this region, including Douglas, where we physically are right now. That includes State Line area, but Douglas County, the Carson Valley, Reno area, Truckee, all of Lake Tahoe. We sort of left off El Dorado County simply because that was in California, because this was through the AIA chapter in northern Nevada. So we also included Story County, for example, which a lot of people, I was surprised to find a lot of people in northern Nevada don't even know what Story County is until you mentioned Virginia City. Why we included it wasn't because of Virginia City, however. It was because of the fact that one person basically owns 65% of the county, which is about 105,000 acres.
Wow.
And that's known as it's advertised as the world's largest industrial park. So if we're talking about sustainable development in any direction, we have to think of what might happen in a 105,000 acre sustainable development known as the Reno Tahoe Industrial Park. So we included that. We also left off Churchill County, which is Fallon, because we had to limit it somewhere. But the region in this case includes everything surrounding Lake Tahoe and over the top down to Reno, because Washoe Valley is Incline Village. State Line is also part of the Carson Valley area. So we included that a lot. And that was a truly regional effort because of that. 7 counties of northern Nevada, where it's going,
that's a
whatever.
lot of people.
And what a lot of people don't fully realize, and why we had to do it that way also, is because 100% of the water for northern Nevada comes from basically 2 sources. The major one being the Truckee River. Think about its outlet in Tahoe City at Fanny Bridge, makes its way through Truckee, its namesake, then down Truckee River through Reno out to Pyramid Lake. Both of the water systems, the other one being Carson, are closed systems. They don't get any more water than what is dealt with through the Truckee and Carson River, so that's a key element for sustainability here. And the thing that I would add, little surprise, is that when I was doing some research on the word region and what that encompassed or whatever, I discovered in French, because anything in ION or OUs is French derived. The next step beyond region is realm, is the word realm, which is associated with royalty or whatever. But I think Lake Tahoe is the realm of the region. Okay.
El Dorado County can be involved then.
Yeah. So let's just say a buzzword might include the idea that Tahoe is actually a realm in the sense that whatever happens in Nevada, or northern Nevada, Reno, say, the development over there actually always has a presentation associated with Lake Tahoe being in their background. That's Reno Tahoe Airport, Reno Tahoe Industrial Park. So Tahoe is a big part of the personality of northern Nevada. Mm-hmm. It's always included in any discussion of what's going on in Reno or Carson City or Douglas County for that matter. So it was appropriate to look at Tahoe as itself, but also as part of a region. But I like the idea that the next step beyond the word region is realm.
Well, realm sounds cool. Well, I know like with the water report we do with Ed James of the Carson River.
And I know him. Yeah.
They work with 6 counties quite well. And then recently I was doing the sage grouse, and it's the bi-state people that are involved with that. So working together is quite good. I like some of the things they do. I just don't know what kind of plans they have for the future for us.
Well, just to describe real quickly the other river, because I went into extent about the Truckee River, Carson River doesn't necessarily come strictly out of the Tahoe Basin. It comes out of Alpine County, and it goes through its namesake of Carson Valley, then by Carson City, then to Lahontan. Not Lahontan, the agency, Lahontan, the reservoir on the east side. So that's why it's another closed system. The water that comes out of the mountain goes there, stops, period. That's all there is.
Luckily it snowed last night. That drought's been pretty tough.
That helps. On the other hand, Mr. James, for example, and working with the multiple counties along the Carson River out to Lahontan, the issue is we will be looking closer at what kinds of water quality issues they are dealing with, for the simple fact that, for example, don't want to cast aspersion, want to give credit where credit's due, but TRPA deals with lake clarity issues, but there's not as much emphasis on the actual water quality issues, such as the fact that there's 7 or 8 water purveyors in the Lake Tahoe Basin. What kinds of programs are they doing to tell their constituents to save water, because it's just as important here as it's going to be everywhere else?
Why couldn't they just get like a plant that purifies the water like they do in France?
Well, the issue for me, why might as well say so, why this area is so far behind is, for example, South Tahoe Public Utilities District, otherwise known as facetiously as stupid, they applied for an $8 million grant to redo the pipeline running through Christmas Valley to the summit that dumps all the effluent from Lake Tahoe out there. If they had been able to take that $8 million and invest it into a state-of-the-art water processing, such as one in Los Angeles, which is ionic in basin, then we wouldn't have to be spending all the energy to pump it out of the basin anymore. We could just treat the water here. That's what I mean by individual water treatment issues, because Tahoe Regional Planning Agency does more about their mantra is about the clarity, but not necessarily about the quality of the drinking water for the constituents. So each of the companies around there have to be dealing with that, which we'll be looking at closer.
I would just get a barge and put a expensive water purification thing on it and clean that sucker up.
Yeah, when you add ozone to the water, that's the ionic part. When you add ozone, it basically cleans up whatever's in there, and then it becomes water again.
Well, if the French can turn the salt water into water, we should be able to turn Tahoe into 100 feet clarity.
Yeah, you would think so. Let's just say that we hope that there's a lot of looking at water, because I think in the Tahoe Basin, because of clarity, because we water ski on it and want to go to the beach and use the picture postcards of all the clear places there are, we tend to take it for granted, and we can't afford to do that anymore in a sustainable world.
Well, the tourist competition's fierce now throughout the world. We need every buck we can get, and it's time to treat our tourists better too, I think.
Well, in my particular case, I'm thinking of sustainability on a community level as one where we should be able to share with the various visitors. I personally met people from Belgium, from Japan, from Chile and Argentina last summer, where that's the kind of people that come through Tahoe routinely during the year. That's part of that 3 million or whatever visitor base, that we should be in a position that we should be able to share with them what it is, why we're doing what we're doing, why it's necessary to do, why they should look at their own neighborhood or their own city or country on these issues. And I think Lake Tahoe is in the perfect position for that as well.
Well, a lot of people do come here and study with the TRPA, which a lot of people don't know. But yesterday I was making some of the mini movies I like so much at the CVS, and there's so many people coming in with different languages. I just think we could do more working with our neighbors. We just got flashed. We're down to about a minute and a half. Give out your contact information again?
My contact information, email tahoefuture@gmail.com. Cell phone is 775-690-6900. And if I may, I'm moving into another realm because, of course, between sustainable development and sustainability, I also do a lot of things in green building. And two things real quickly. We'll be doing a tour next Saturday from where we are right now, the 17th, of some of the green homes that were built in the Angora fire area, because a lot of houses were built. A lot of people opted for larger than what they had before, but a lot of them opted for totally green houses, and we'll be touring there.
Well, that's great, and we're going to have you back again to talk more about that greenhouse thing you've been talking about at the TRPA, and get some more education on that, because I think that can help a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm just plugging away, trying to make a difference, and as we all would like to, I'm just trying to do that.
I appreciate it. Well, thank you for being on Nevada Trails.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And do your studying and study sustainability. I think it's going to help your family and friends. Thank you very much.